Hey, what's up, guys? Another quick music production tip video. Um, a thought dawned on me today of like the one of the biggest tips that I could give to someone who's already kind of acquired some skill. They're kind of on their way to making a certain sound and all this stuff is um, trying to gain the ability to hear your music through someone else's ears, which sounds weird. And it can never fully be done because you are never going to hear your music the same way that a stranger will, right? Because you were there for its beginning. You built it piece by piece. You've seen it like grow and kind of progress through these like certain stages. So it's kind of like similar to like a parent is never going to view their child, that human being, the same way that like a stranger will when they see them on the street, right? Because that stranger is just coming into contact with this person, whatever, they just see him. All right, cool. Whereas the parent has seen that person from a baby all the way grown up, all their stages. They're going to see them very, very different. Um, so question: how do you go about that? Um, it's really tough because, again, you have to pretend like you have never heard the song before. So, one big mistake to avoid, and I still have trouble with this one, is while your song is still being built, try to avoid listening to it for enjoyment, like when you're like out of the house. You should be listening to it to try to figure out problems like, hey, what should I put next in this section? Should I repeat the last section or do something new? Blah, blah, blah. If you're like thinking critically about it and listening to it for that reason, that's good. But listening to it, like I said, just for enjoyment because you think it's cool, is going to make you kind of tunnel visioned about it. Um, it's like saying the same word to yourself over and over until you almost like can't understand what the word even means anymore. So I guess the word objectivity comes to mind. You want to try to remain as objective as possible, and again, you're never going to be completely. It's like trying to get as far to that line as possible, but you're never going to actually cross it. Um, so one thing I've noticed is the first time that you listen to this song that you've been working on, right? You have the song. The first listen of the day is the most important because you haven't been up all day or night working on it and listening. I'm sure a lot of producers out there have sat in their room at night with their headphones on and like spent 3 or 4 hours making this beat or this song or whatever, and then you wake up the next morning and listen to it, and it's very different, isn't it? It's pretty eye opening. A lot of times you make something that you think is really fucking cool, and then you wake up the next morning and first thing you're like, oh yeah, that shit that I made last night, and you listen to it and it's just trash, and you're like, fuck, because again, you were just listening to it over and over. You were just like kind of in your own world, and it was cool. But then you realize it's not relatable, and if it sounds a lot worse to you that next morning, chances are if you showed that song to a stranger, it's going to be way even worse because we all know we have a pretty judgmental ear when it comes to music because in a society like this, we're spoiled. Like we hear the best of the best all the time. Acting, you go and watch a movie, it's just like the best actors in the world, best directors. You go to Spotify and you just hear top playlists of just these expert producers and blah blah blah. So let me fix my stupid mic stand right now. So yeah, that the first listen of the day is the most important. And again, you want to be listening with a critical ear. As far as like problem solving, you basically want to get your song like laid out as quickly as possible because again, you want to like keep this kind of objectivity. Um, And that's another reason why, you know, a lot of people will hear like a pop song. I'm old. Like Britney Spears comes to mind. Like back then, and a lot of people would hear something that's very simple and very catchy and kind of think, well, that's stupid. They just sat down and made some little tune and kind of talking as if it's easy to make or if it's worth less than something that's like musically technical. But what I've found is sometimes simple and catchy is way more difficult than just like, hey, I'm going to do these crazy arpeggios and, where you're just kind of doing tricks with music. And it's something that I've tried to do with this album that I'm working on. And again, like how does a person learn to like sit down at a piano or whatever and write a tune that millions of people around the world, whether they're in the slums of, Tokyo, in the mountains in Russia, someone in, South America, Africa, all those different people could hear the same song and they're all going to feel it. They'll all be able to hum it back to you after one listening. That's a skill. That's an amazing skill. And you hear these, it's almost like you hear these tunes and you almost feel like they've always existed because they're so catchy. It's like it's almost like, how did I not come up with that? Because it's just so simple. It's almost like a nursery rhyme for adults. Like it's cool. And you often hear people talk about how music like that is, oh, it's so simple and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, dude, like I almost respect that more than like an Yngwie Malmsteen character, you know? Um, yeah. So you get there by, again, just trying to listen to your music through the ear of someone who's never heard it before. I wish I could like give you more on how to do that, but again, it's just like, yeah, the first listen of the day is the most important, and try to not listen to the song too much before it's finished. Um, and yeah, just try, just try to, pretend that you have never heard it before. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that. That's my tip for the day. Thanks for watching.